Hi everyone, this is Izzy here coming to you with my John Wick Chapter 3 Bellum review. It is 2:42 in the morning, and without further ado, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this review. Anyone who hasn't watched John Wick Chapter 2 and doesn't want to be spoiled, I suggest that you stop watching this right now. John Wick Chapter 3 begins immediately after the events of John Wick Chapter 2, where he is killed on continental grounds and has been deemed excommunicado. He is banished from using any continental resources, and he is on the run, and that's where the exciting, intense action begins. When John Wick 3 begins, it grabs you by the throat and doesn't let go, and that's what makes it such an exciting and unique experience. As someone who is a cinematic nerd like myself, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s where action films were quite the norm. Very old school, very over the top, and exciting and entertaining. I was very into the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee, Jeff Speakman, Steven Seagal. Those were my action heroes as a kid, and those were the action heroes that I wanted to emulate if I ever got into the film industry. And John Wick Chapter 3 is very similar to those films, as well as the later Fast and Furious films, where it's not necessarily about the story, it's more about how over the top and how insane can we get with the stunts and the sequences. Keanu Reeves is absolutely perfect for this role, since he doesn't necessarily have to show a wide range of emotions. He is simply there to be portrayed as this Baba Yaga, this boogeyman who is a fully unstoppable killing machine who will stop at nothing to ensure his own survival, and he will use whatever material that is necessary for him to succeed in putting down his target, whether it's a pencil, whether it's a book, whether it's a bottle, whether it's a gun, whether it's a knife, whether it's whatever that you can imagine. He will find a way to use it to incapacitate his target, and that's what makes him one of the coolest and most badass action heroes of this generation. And the John Wick trilogy is the trilogy that I felt Keanu Reeves absolutely deserved, because as most people are very aware of, the Matrix trilogy, while it wasn't horrible, it didn't end on the proper, satisfying, emotional note. As great as the first Matrix was, Matrix Reloaded was decent, Matrix Revolution was whereas trilogies as of late can be hit or miss, because you have that one film that's amazing, the second film that's decent, then the third film that's you have the first one that's amazing, then you have the second one that's then you have the third one that's meh. John Wick 3 has managed to escape the trilogy curse, where I felt that this one in particular blows the first and the second one out the water, which I did not think was possible. I thought that it was going to fall under its own unrealistic expectations, if you will. And as everyone knows, I have a special guest with me right now. I'm going to see if I can get her into the camera. Most people are aware of, I have my cat Shadow in here, who's obviously wanted some attention. So without further ado, everyone, I want you to meet my cat Shadow. This is Shadow. Hey Shadow. Hey Adams. Say hi to everybody, Shadow. Alright, there you go. Sorry about that. She wanted some attention. So I have to say, John Wick Chapter 3 is probably one of the greatest action films of all time. It's a reminder of what I felt was reminiscent of the films that I watched during my childhood, and I will fully watch this again. It will be added to my film collection, as you can see. Halle Berry makes an appearance as another assassin as a manager of the Continental Experience, and she is like the female version of John Wick, who's just as badass and tough as he is, and she is cool. She has some of the most exciting and coolest kills in the film, especially once her dogs get involved. I will say, as I've watched all three John Wicks, and when it comes to the first film, I won't watch the part where the dog gets killed, just because, as someone who is a pet owner, I get pretty sad and depressed whenever I see a scene where an animal gets hurt. I don't like watching it, and that was one of the most intense experiences of watching this film, where I'm sitting there and I'm holding on to the armrest, and I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat because I'm afraid that some dog or some animal is going to get killed in the process. But I don't want to get into these spoilers, but that's what makes it. It's just an overall fun experience. It's in an era where action films of the late is more focused on using quick edits, CGI blood, and we're not able to see or discern what's happening on the screen as far as the sequences are concerned. It's quite refreshing to have a director who pulls the camera back and we're able to fully appreciate the intricate nature and the choreographed sequences that involve just how hard work is rewarded. Because when you think about it, Keanu Reeves, we've all seen the video of him training with weapons. We've seen Halle Berry training with weapons, and they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. And Keanu Reeves, also with his martial arts background, it just makes it that much more authentic. We're actually seeing Keanu Reeves and the other actors and actresses involved in the fighting sequences. We're seeing it. They're actually doing it, and that's what makes it exciting and fun. We're not seeing anything that's quickly cut away. We're seeing with the wide camera, we're seeing the angles, and we're seeing the gunfights, we're seeing the throws, we're seeing the punches, we're seeing the kicks, we're seeing the blood, and it's very old school, and that's what makes it fun and unique and exciting. For one, I'm tired of watching action films where we just can't tell what's going on, and for all we know, it's really, the shaky cam is just seizure-inducing. I can't stand it. I hate it. I wish more directors would rely more on their talent and the talent of their actors rather than trying to cut away because they don't know how to properly film an action scene. It's very reminiscent to what I grew up watching, and I loved every single second of it. The action, as I said, the action is from beginning to end, and each scene, or should I say sequence, is different from the next one. It's not necessarily more the same, and that's what makes it special. Is you have one scene that might involve hand-to-hand, you have another scene that involves swords, you have another scene that involves knives, you have another scene that involves more... I will say there is a little bit of wrestling in it. As someone as I grew up watching professional wrestling, so there was a lot of moves that I recognized with John Wick utilizing in his fights. With this film as well, where we actually are treated to the different continental circles, where they're each from all walks of life, whether it's here in America or it's overseas. Their reach is far beyond them, far beyond our comprehension, and we're treated to various different locations, and that was one of the coolest experiences for me, just to see different assassins from all walks of life and having their own skills. And I will say the end sequence of this film is one of the coolest of all time. And you see I don't want to spoil it because it's cool and it's far more brutal than what we have come to expect. How they're able to improve upon what John Wick 2 represented it blew my mind. I did not think it was going to be anything possible, and they do leave it open for a fourth film, which again, these films are just getting better and better. And I think the fourth film, depending on which direction they go in, I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do it. It might be the final one, but it would not surprise me if this franchise goes into the fifth or the sixth or the seventh or the eighth film like the Fast and Furious. The music is great. The action experience is exciting and intense and brutal and violent and bloody. Keanu Reeves is once again a highlight. Halle Berry's a highlight. Ian McShane as Winston is a highlight. You have a lot of talented actors and actresses in this film, and its story is there. I don't want to say there is no story, because it's one of those films where you do turn your brain off for 2 hours and you're just watching Keanu Reeves kill people, but at the same time you're very interested to see just how much more expanded can this universe become. And I have to say, this film, I think this is going to be the film that might top Avengers Endgame as far as the box office. I don't want to say box office. It might knock Avengers Endgame off the #1 spot, but again, I say might. I don't see it happening, but if it doesn't, this is still one of the greatest action films of all time. I highly recommend it. It receives a 2 thumbs up from me, 5 out of 5. I say watch it. You will not be disappointed. It's just a killer ride from beginning to end. That is my review. It is 2:51. I hope everyone has a wonderful, safe night. The next review, I think, is probably going to be Aladdin, or it might be Ma. Haven't really decided yet because everything is still up in the air. With that said, I hope everyone, again, has a safe night, and I will be seeing you all again. Peace out, and take care.